guys, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Shauma and welcome back to another apartment hunting vlog. So if you can tell from the title, we are looking for a new apartment in DC. The lease is coming up and we're actually looking for a 2-bed and a 2-bath this time around. So interesting things are happening, especially in the year of 2026. But I don't want to keep you here too long, so we are going to dive right into the video. So if you watched any of our previous apartment hunting vlogs, be it in DC, be it in New York, be it in Lagos, or be it in London, then what we're looking for is basically the same thing. But if you are new to our channel, we'll quickly run through our non-negotiables when it came to looking for an apartment in DC. So first off, we're looking for a 2-bed and we're looking for a 2-bath. And with the 2-bath, one of the bathrooms had to have a walk-in shower. Literally, that was one of her non-negotiables that she was not going to flip-flop on. Apartment needs to have an in-unit washer and dryer. Upon going to America, we've understood that that is something that's actually not common in some apartments, and so that was something that we definitely needed with the apartment that we were looking for. In terms of location, the apartment needs to be located be it in Navy Yard or the Wharf. Those are the two areas that we actually really know in DC. The development of where the apartment was going to be located needed to have a concierge. It needs to have some form of 24-hour security. Also needed to have fob access. Bonus points if they had fob access on your phone. The development also needed to have a gym. As you've seen a lot of our vlogs, we are trying to be in our great lock-in era. My sister and I are both two individuals who do go to the gym quite frequently, and so then we actually did need an apartment to have access to a gym that had decent equipment. The development or where the apartment was located also needs to have a co-working space. I work from home a lot, so I needed a space that was going to be different from the apartment, so I just have the degree of separation between where I work and where it is I sleep, relax and rest. Needed to have lifts. Come and gone those days where you're walking and lugging suitcases upstairs. The apartment needed to have wooden floors. My sister and I are probably the most clumsiest women you will ever meet in your entire life, and there was no way of God's green earth that we could survive in a place that only had carpets. We were roughly budgeting around $4,000 max for the apartment we were looking for. So those were mainly our non-negotiables when it came to looking for this apartment this time round. When it came to like amenities or things that would be a nice to have but it wasn't necessarily something that we actually needed, one was a rooftop pool. We love the aesthetic of having a pool in the building, but realistically, currently where my sister stays in DC and the apartment that we have in London, we don't really go to the pool, and so once again it'll be a nice to have, but it wasn't the be all or end all if the apartment didn't have a pool. Those are basically the things that we were looking for. So we actually ended up seeing 15 different apartments, but that was split across 6 different developments. A bit of a disclaimer, when it comes to the pricing and the square footage, I would leave them on the screen. We've seen these apartments across a couple of weeks, so whilst these were the prices that were offered when we were looking, they may not be the same prices right now. So the first development that we went to go and view was an apartment complex or apartment development located in what's called the Yards in Navy Yard, and it was called the Estate. So in this development, we ended up seeing 5 different apartments, and they range between a 2-bed and a 3-bed because we really just wanted to see the different options out there, what the price points were. So the first thing that we saw when we went to this development was the amenities, and these were a little bit on the darker side. Well, particularly for us, it had a very dark aesthetic, mainly giving a dark green and a dark blue. However, when it did came to the amenities, I will say that they had a lot. They had a residence lounge that had various different places for you to study and work. There was a conference room or like a meeting room. They did have a gym, but I would not say that it was the best apartment gym. But then again, they did have a gym that had decent equipment. Then we went to where they had their pools, and they had a hot and cold pool. They had like a wet and a dry sauna, a massage room, a pet spa. We were then taken to the outside. We saw the outside pool and then the outside seating area, which was okay, nothing to write home about. The development did have a concierge, however we forgot to ask whether or not that concierge was 24 hours, but it did have fob access and it was located in a very nice neighborhood. So the first apartment that we went to go see was a 2-bed and 2-bath, and it had a lot of space. It had the floor-to-ceiling windows, which was also something that we were looking for when it came to apartments. The kitchen was of a really decent size, and we really loved the color scheme throughout this apartment. It had an in-unit washer and dryer, and the views from this apartment were amazing. You had a direct view of the Frederick Douglass Bridge, and that bridge is just gorgeous, especially against the sunset. We then went to the rooms themselves, and so the first room we went to go see was actually to the second bedroom, and it was of a decent size. It wasn't as big as I thought it was going to be. The view wasn't great from this room, especially when you compared it to what you could see from the kitchen or living space, but it did have a sizable closet or wardrobe storage area. And the bathroom in the second bedroom was actually really, really big. It was well lit, it had a beautiful aesthetic. For me at least, I really love black accents in a bathroom, and one thing that I've seen when it came to touring apartments in America is that sometimes the bathtub can be really low to the ground. I'm not quite sure why that is. This one thankfully was not. Then we went to the primary bedroom, and the primary bedroom was actually a very, very good size. The ensuite bathroom for the primary room was gorgeous. The size was amazing. It had the his and hers sink, loved the aesthetic. It not only had a bathtub, it also had a walk-in shower as well. And that was common across all the different ensuite bathrooms of the primary rooms in this development, that they will both have a bathtub as well as a walk-in shower. And that is something that we hadn't come across in any of the apartment huntings that we had done in New York and DC combined. But anyway, that was the first apartment. The next apartment, which was also another 2-bed and a 2-bath. This apartment that we saw was actually of a different color scheme or a different layout to the first apartment, and to me it gave a more of a modern feel. The space was actually really nice. However, in comparison to the first apartment we had just seen, it was a little bit smaller. Again, the apartment had an in-unit washer and dryer, and despite the apartment being smaller than the first one we saw, the rooms were actually bigger. So we went to second bedroom, and this second bedroom was actually really big. Only downside is that you weren't getting as much natural light coming into this room because there was another building blocking it. It did have a walkway closet, which I thought was pretty interesting for a second bedroom. And then that led into the bathroom, which again was really beautiful, really sizable, had a really nice aesthetic. It was a nice bathroom. We weren't able to get a clip of the primary room, but again, like the second bedroom, it also had a walkway closet. It also had a large bathroom, and like the first apartment, the bathroom had a walk-in shower and a bathtub. This bathroom though had a his and her sink, and I don't know, something about his and her sinks just sends me the right way. It just gives off, I'm that girl. The only downside of this apartment was the fact that it was just on the lower floor and it was right next to another building, and because of that it blocked a lot of natural light coming into the apartment. Nevertheless, the apartment was actually a really nice apartment. But that was the second apartment. After that, we went to the third apartment, which had a similar vibe to the first apartment in terms of its colours. It was similar to what we had seen. This was a 2-bed and 2-bath. Now, the kitchen in this flat was a bit of me. It was huge. So much natural light was coming in. We went to the second bedroom, and it was a bit smaller than the other 2 apartments we had seen. But again, it was a really nice room, had a lot of light coming in. The storage space was alright. It wasn't the best. And to be fair, the toilet for this bathroom was just a little bit tight in comparison to the other apartments we had seen. However, coming from London where the bathrooms don't tend to be that big, to me it wasn't the be all or end all. And then we went to the primary room, and the primary room in this apartment we did not love. Kind of blocked by another building, so the primary room was really dark. It did have a lot of closet slash wardrobe space, and to be fair, the wardrobe space was the biggest that we had seen across the apartments in this development. The bathroom again was similar to the other bathrooms. It had the bathtub, the walk-in shower, and it also had the his and her sink. But that was the third apartment. We then went to the fourth apartment, and again, the fourth apartment was just very similar to what we had already seen. This apartment had the smallest living and kitchen space in comparison to all the other apartments we had seen that day, which is sad because I think out of all the apartments we had seen, when it came to the bedrooms had the best views. But this was the fourth apartment. We just wanted you to see the fourth apartment, what it was going for, and the floor that was on. Then we went to the last apartment, and the last apartment is actually very different in comparison to the other apartments. This one was actually a 3-bed and a 3-bath. So we had booked to go see this apartment because we really just wanted to see what a 3-bed and 3-bath offering would look like. As you would expect, the 3-bedroom apartment was huge, and I mean big. The kitchen living space just made sense. It had a lot of natural light coming in. The views from the kitchen living area were beautiful. This was the only apartment that we had seen that day in this development that had an outdoor private balcony that you could go outside, you could relax and look over the river. And it had beautiful views of the marina. The rooms in this apartment were also massive. These rooms also had large closet and wardrobe storage space. The bathrooms were also really big. Now, the downside of this apartment, only one downside of this this apartment was that it was listed as a 3-bedroom. However, it's clear that one of the tenants who had lived in this apartment previously had converted one of the rooms into a home office, and instead of them removing what had been put in, they had left it in. And the reason why I say this is a downside is because the previous tenant had used one of the bigger rooms with the best views and the best lighting in the apartment. I don't know if they would refuse to move it, and the other room, which wasn't converted to a home office, was small in comparison. You can kind of see the marina, but it's a little bit hidden, and if you did see the marina, it was kind of obstructed by this netting or mesh in the window. So again, that was the only downside. The 3-bedroom apartment was so beautiful, it was so lovely. I think all the apartments in this development were actually really nice. I think the main thing that was wrong with this development was that for the price that you pay, it just didn't feel like it was worth it. It felt like it was very expensive in comparison to other apartments in and around Navy Yard and the Wall. That was the only reason why we didn't go with this space, was because of that. But again, we really loved the apartments and we loved the aesthetics in this space. Next, we went to go and see a development called Valo, and this was located between Navy Yard and the Wharf. This is a place my sister and I have actually walked past multiple times, and when it comes to this street, the only way that I can describe this street is that it reminds me a lot of GTA. So for me, the location wasn't it. However, in this development, we ended up seeing 2 apartments. First off, we were taken to go and see the amenities, and they really didn't have much. They had like a really large residence lounge, and they did offer free coffee to their residents. It had like a section which I would say is like a version of a games room. There was a pool table, there was a shuffleboard. We were then taken to the gym / fitness center, and the person who was showing us around made it his mission to make it very known that the equipment were Peloton. He was very proud of the fact that the equipment was from Peloton. Now, the fitness center or gym, depending on what you call it, wasn't actually big. It had a decent amount of equipment. It was just on the smaller side. We were then taken to go see all the other amenities. So they had a pet spa, so perfect for you guys who have dogs or cats. They had a bike storage shed. They also had a car park. We then went to their version of a rooftop that they had like another co-working space. We then went to go see the pool, but because it is the winter months, the pool is closed. We were able to see what it would look like, and it was a pretty sizable pool. One thing I will say is that the views from this rooftop were actually really nice. You could see like snippets of the Capitol building, but that was it in terms of amenities. Like I said, they didn't have much in comparison to other places that we had seen previously and that we were going to see, but it wasn't awful. So then we went to go and see the first apartment, which was located on the 6th floor. And this apartment was a 2-bed and a 2-bath. So one thing I will say about this apartment is that it was really spacious. And given that the development in general was surrounded by a lot of buildings, the kitchen had a lot of natural light coming in. The apartment had an in-unit washer and dryer. However, it didn't really have a lot of storage space. We then went to go see the primary bedroom. You could see it was pretty small and it was pretty dark, especially given that it was the primary bedroom. Also had obvious signs of wear and tear, and I don't know if you can see it in the video, but the door was broken. The bathroom did have a walk-in shower. It was on the smaller side for the primary room's ensuite. We then went to the second bedroom, which was surprisingly nicer, more so because there was just a lot more natural light coming in. It wasn't blocked by another building, but again, it was pretty small. It didn't have the best storage space, and the storage space was actually pretty awkward. The door could only slide so far, and so then it would just be very weird to try and actually get in and put your stuff in closet or wardrobe. We then went to the second bathroom, which wasn't actually attached to the bedroom, the main communal bathroom, and it was pretty big. It did have a bathtub, and I don't know, just something about it felt a little bit weird. I don't know if it was the color scheme, the bathtub, something about it was giving awkward. Then we went to the second apartment, and the second apartment was located on the 5th floor. This again was another 2-bed and 2-bathroom. So right off the bat, it was a no from us. You can see from the clip that it was just extremely dark as you walk in it. The space was small and narrow in comparison to the first apartment. It had a similar color scheme, and again, it had an in-unit washer and dryer. And another issue with this apartment, it didn't have a lot of storage space. I will say though that the primary room in this apartment was significantly nicer. It was brighter, it was cleaner, it felt like there was less wear and tear. It had more closet space, still awkward, but it had more. The bathroom was really big, had his and her sinks. It had a walk-in shower, which was obviously something that Chidi really needed. The view from this room wasn't the best. It wasn't as bad as the first apartment that was completely blocked off by another building. Then the next room, I don't know if you could really even call this a room. It was giving more like a den. It didn't have any windows, didn't really have any closet space. But anyway, the bathroom was really nice. That is something that was its saving grace. It had a huge bathtub, which I love, and it had a really large storage space. So that was basically the second apartment. It wasn't really giving us a 2-bed, 2-bath. It was giving us more of a 1-bedroom and a den with 2 bathrooms. With these apartments, they weren't bad, but as you can see, the price point for these apartments are significantly lower. I feel like you get what it is that you were paying for. Like, there were clear signs of wear and tear, doors were broken. For us, I think the location just off the bat wasn't for us. They did have really good security, and you could see the security. There was fob access. The amenities were okay. However, the staff were amazing. But that was the second development we went to go see. Again, it wasn't bad. The location was probably the reason why we weren't going to put an offer in this place, and also it's one of the older developments in the area. The next place we went to go see was this development called First in Navy Yard. So we were meant to go and see this development, but we did not actually get to see any of the apartment when we got here. We had met the receptionist or worker who was going to be the person who was meant to show us around. However, when we got there, she had said that she was tired and that she wasn't going to show us around, and that they shouldn't have let us even make the booking to be able to see any of the apartments. We did manage to get some clips of the entrance, the waiting area, the reception area, which is a shame because just from looking at that, they were cute. They had a beautiful fireplace. The reception area was given aesthetic, kind of a luxury vibe. It was nice, but who knows? Maybe it's just that place wasn't meant for us if this was the energy that we're getting right off the bat. I'm not saying not to go view those apartments, just FYI, that is what happened when we tried to go view the apartments at first. The fourth development that we actually did manage to see was a place called The Channel, which was located in the Wharf. So right off the bat, we were not feeling this place whatsoever, and the reason why was because when we had rang the bell to be allowed into the area, we basically had to wait outside for a good 15 minutes in the cold. Anybody who lives in DC knows that DC, especially in the winter time, gets extremely cold, and we are just standing outside waiting to be let in for our tour. We were then let in by a resident, and funny enough, there was somebody at the reception. Just with this place, they weren't a massive fan of us filming, so I did get as many clips as I possibly could. And the first things we went to go see were the amenities, which were all located on the 6th floor. A lot of the amenities I'm going to list I have just taken from the website because these are the things they actually did have. They had a 2-story fitness area. To be fair, with this development, I'll give it to them. Their gym was phenomenal. The gym was a bit of me. It had all the equipment you could think of. I cannot fault the gym. They also had a dog park, a community garden, a grilling station, a library lounge, and an infinity pool. The gym was decent, but everything else was kind of mid. Like, this was their version of a co-working space, which wasn't really giving. They then took us to the pool area. You actually weren't allowed to bring any guests to the pool area, which we thought was really odd. We then went down to their grilling station, which wasn't really what I thought a grilling station would be. The library space was quite nice, and I believe they give you free coffee if you're a resident, but that was really the only saving graces. And of course the gym. The gym, top tip. We then went to go see the first apartment, and in fairness, the first apartment had a lot of space and a lot of natural light. It had floor-to-ceiling windows, and it was actually really inviting as you walked in. The only thing is that it had a really odd layout. It did have an in-unit washer and dryer, but the views from this apartment weren't the best. And plus the rooms in this apartment were really small, and we weren't really sure how you would be able to fit a double bed in either of the rooms. They also didn't have a lot of closet or wardrobe space. And then we went to the bathrooms, and the bathrooms had a very weird and odd color scheme. We were just a bit confused by the wooden units, and then the grey tiles tops, and then the white. Then we moved over to the primary room, and the primary room was actually bigger than I anticipated. Weren't quite sure again how you would fit a double bed in here. Any view from here was completely obstructed by another building. You barely got any views, and then because of that, it kind of blocked any natural light that would be coming into the room as well. It did have a lot of storage space in this room, I'll give it that. The bathroom, again, wasn't a fan of the color scheme. Saying that, it did have a sizable walk-in shower, but had clear signs of wear and tear and quite a bit of mold. But that was the first apartment. As you can tell, we didn't like it, and so we went on to the next apartment. So, to be fair, The first apartment wasn't given, and at that point we should have gone home. However, we decided that we were going to give the second apartment a try and see what it was saying. As we were walking to the second apartment, it felt like we were walking 40 days and 40 nights. It was far from the main entrance, and as we were walking we saw a lot of eviction notices on the doors and on the floors walking up to this apartment. I don't know what the American equivalent of the word is, but it was giving boogie, and it just didn't leave a good impression on us. As soon as we got to the apartment, it was supposed to be a 2-bed 2-bath. We were then told by the person showing us around that they are still doing the changeover of this apartment. But anyway, we went inside. Couldn't film the kitchen or living space because there was people working and there was paint everywhere. But in any case, we were able to go and see the rooms. There was no door to the primary room. I don't know whether or not that was just because they were painting and refreshing, that they might have taken the door off the hinges. But when we went to go see it, there was no door. The only saving grace was that there was a lot of natural light. I will give it that. It was a very bright and inviting room, but it had carpets. And so we were just like, well, no, we can't do carpets. So overall, we were not really a fan of this development, nor were we a fan of the apartment. It was clear that it just hasn't stood the test of time. It is one of the older developments that opened up on the wharf. So with this place, it was a no from us for a multitude of reasons. The amenities was lacking. Felt like there was a lot of wear and tear. It felt like it was very lived in. Weren't really a fan of that there was no real lobby space. Not quite sure if there was fob access because the person showing us around didn't really disclose a lot of the information. Because of all those things anyway, we didn't feel the need to question. But that was the channel in the wall. So the next development we went to go and see was called 1212, which was located in the yard. For this viewing, it was more like an open house kind of vibe. 1212 has actually been advertised as luxe apartment with modern minimalist details, and we ended up seeing 3 apartments in this space, which were a mixture of 2 beds and 3 beds. So the first apartment we went to go see was a 2-bed 2-bath. Immediately we fell in love. We loved the amount of natural light that you got as you walked in. The kitchen / living area was really, really spacious. The view wasn't the best, but you could kind of see the main part of Navy Yard. Then we went to the second bedroom and it was a decent size. We just weren't a fan of the lighting coming in and the fact that you have a view of this red building from the window. I will say that the closet / wardrobe space was a very good size, and to me at least, it was the first closets that we had seen in this whole apartment hunting journey that made sense. So we went to go see like the main / shared bathroom, and I really liked it. I really liked the color, I really liked the size. I really love like a dark grey aesthetic for a bathroom. That's a bit of me, it's a bit itchy. The only thing that I didn't like, and if you could tell from the videos, is that the bathtub was really low. But because I did like everything else, it wasn't something that I was just going to completely write off an apartment for. Then we went to the primary bedroom, and the primary bedroom I really liked. Loved the floor to ceiling windows. The view was okay, but it wasn't dire. Like there was just so much natural light coming in. You could get over the fact that the view wasn't the best. Then we went to the bathroom. The bathroom was really nice. It had a nice aesthetic. It was given very modern, and plus it had a his and her sink and it had a shower. It was like it described. It was given that modern minimalist details, and that is something that we really liked about this apartment and just about this development in general. We then went to go see the second apartment, and this one was just a different layout to the first one, but this one was actually a 3-bed and 3-bath. The primary was actually really big in this apartment, but I wasn't really a fan of the fact that there wasn't like the floor to ceiling windows. But despite not having that, you could see there was still quite a bit of natural light that was coming in. The wardrobe space or closet space in this apartment was a little bit awkward. They had like a shelf behind the cupboard drawer thing. We just didn't understand how you would get anything behind it. The bathroom was big, but it didn't have a walk-in shower. Does I have a walk-in shower? It's not going to be for her. The second bedroom again was of a good size, and the bathroom was actually really nice in this place as well. It had a really nice bathtub. The bathtub was quite low to the floor. Then we went to the third bedroom, which was a similar size to the second. Unfortunately, I got caught filming, so there's only so much I could show for this apartment, but the view from this room was pretty okay. So overall, this apartment actually wasn't bad. I think it was pretty decent for a 3-bed 3-bath, especially for what you were paying. But the fact that it didn't have a walk-in shower, which was a non-negotiable, obviously wasn't going to be for us. But nonetheless, it was a nice apartment. Then we went to the third apartment in this development, and the third apartment was a 2-bed and 2-bath, and it kind of had a similar layout to the second apartment. The kitchen living space was really big, really sizable. There was a lot of natural light coming in. I actually really liked the kitchen space. The primary room in this apartment we really loved, a lot of natural light coming in, but again there was no walk-in shower in the bathrooms, and so because of that it just wouldn't be something that we would go for. But the bathrooms were nice. These apartments in this building were really, really nice. Then after touring the 3 apartments, we were then taken to go see the amenities, which I believe was located all on the 7th floor, and there was quite a bit. They had a courtyard, there was a lounge area, a co-working space area, there was a kitchen space or like a bar table where you could also host quite a few of your friends if they wanted to come over. When it came to this development, we actually really liked it. The only thing we didn't like was the availability of the apartments that they had at the time that we went to go and view it. 1212 is a very nice spot. And then last but not least, the last development that we went to go see in this whole apartment hunting journey was called Valo, which is also located in Navy Yard. It's actually located next to one of my all-time favorite coffee shops in Navy Yard, because if I only have to hop downstairs in my pajamas to get myself a coffee from my man, I had such high hopes for this development. Right from the jump, staff was super friendly and really made it so that you were going to have a great experience as you were touring the apartment. The place just felt very inviting. It felt very modern. We ended up seeing 2 apartments, but the first one we went to go see in this space was the amenity. And the first one we went to go see what was called the indoor club room, which is basically like a space where you can go and host and entertain your friends. They also had a games room, they had a lounge area, various different spaces for you to relax and unwind. We were then taken outside and it had a beautiful view of the Frederick Douglass Memorial Bridge, and we went to see it at sunset so you could just see how beautiful those scenic views were. The development also had a pool, but again we were seeing all these spaces in the fall/winter season. They're closed until the new year. We then went to go see the gym, and the gym was really nice. I think it was one of my favorite apartment gyms that we had seen in this whole apartment hunting experience. It also had like a studio for where they do like group workouts. It had like a space where you can bring your own personal trainer in. Wasn't able to film this, but they had a co-working space. They had individual meet and greet pods. But that was the amenities. I think in terms of all the amenities that we've seen across the different developments, this was, if not the best set of amenities that we had seen. And also from our knowledge, we were then told as well, not only did it have 24-hour security or 24-hour staff presence, that you also had fob access on your phone, which we thought was really cool because you could also share that fob access with guests who were coming to visit you, something that we hadn't seen in any of the other developments that we had actually toured this time round. Then we went to go see the apartments, and the first apartment we went to go see was on the 9th floor. I think it was a 1-bed and a den, and as soon as you walked in you were greeted by the kitchen. And to be fair, in this apartment it felt like the island was oddly placed. It wasn't really in the kitchen space, so if you weren't careful you would kind of just hit yourself against it. Of course, that's exactly what I did when I walked in. But the space did have floor-to-ceiling windows, and it had wooden floors. From the kitchen and living room area space, you were also able to catch a glimpse of the river, which was also a very nice touch. Now the rooms. So the first room we went to go see was more like a home office kind of vibe. But anyway, we went to the primary bedroom, and the primary bedroom was beautiful. It was so spacious, a lot of natural light coming in. The closet space made sense. The only thing that was wrong was the view. Also, it did have a walk-in shower. It had a bathtub, so Chidi automatically was just like, this isn't for her. But other than that, it was a very nice apartment, especially for a 1-bed and a den. Then we were taken to the second apartment, which was located on the 2nd floor, and this was a 2-bed and a 2-bath apartment. As soon as we walked in, I instantly fell in love. Absolutely. It had so much space. The kitchen made sense. The living room space made sense. The floor-to-ceiling windows just brought in so much lighting. It had the in-unit washer and dryer. It had the closet space. Both rooms had so much natural lighting going for them. They had the wooden floors. They had the great closet and storage space in them. The bathroom had a walk-in shower for the primary ensuite. The second bathroom had a large bathtub that wasn't so close to the ground. The downside was that it was on a low floor. When we were leaving the development and we were walking, we could see other people being shown this apartment from the floor, and so we're just like, oh, okay, so people can really be all up in our business, like all in our business, which is a shame because this is such a nice apartment. But it was too low. This development was the best development that we had seen. With Valo, while it was one of the nicer developments, you can tell it hadn't stood the test of time. It felt very lived in. There was a lot of discoloration. We did do another viewing of the Valo apartment and these things became a bit more apparent. And bear in mind there was only a month when we went to see it again, but it was nice. But anyway guys, that is the end of our apartment hunting in DC, looking for a 2-bed and 2-bath because a lot of things are happening in 2026. We did put in an offer for an apartment, but if you want to know the one that we fingers crossed get, then make sure you are subscribed and you've joined the family. We are a family out in these streets, as I always love to say, and we are on the road to 10k. What you think we might have gone with might not have been the place we went with. It would also be interesting to let us know which one that you would have gone with. But anyway guys, that is it from me. I'm going to love and leave you. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found it informative and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.